The temperature in the grand ballroom of the Evergreen Resort dropped as my eyes locked with hers. My champagne flute froze halfway to my lips. The bride turned, glass raised in a toast, and my careful facade crumbled. Grace, my sister. The sister who'd stolen my future while my parents held the door open for her. Her smile faltered, recognition morphing from shock to panic. Behind her, my mother's face drained of color before flushing crimson. My father moved protectively toward Grace, creating a barrier between us, just as he'd done all our lives. "What are you doing here?" my mother hissed, loud enough that nearby guests turned. For a heartbeat, I was 21 again, standing in the rain with a suitcase, homeless and alone. But Michael's hand on my back anchored me to the present. "My wife is a guest," Michael said, his voice firm. "She's the CEO of Moldova. We were invited by the groom." The name Moldova rippled through the cluster of medical professionals nearby. "CEO?" A woman in burgundy turned to her companion. "That's Amber Collins." My name is Emma, though I use Amber professionally to distance myself from my past. I'm 32 and founder of a medical technology company. This is the story of how I built an empire from my family's betrayal. Michael's hand remained steady against my back. Leo tugged at his bow tie, his 6-year-old patience wearing thin. "Mom, is that lady in the white dress your friend?" he asked, innocent to the tension. Dr. Daniel Brooks approached, confusion creasing his brow as he looked between Grace's frozen face and mine. "You know the CEO of Moldova?" he asked my parents, then turned to me. "We've been trying to partner with them for months. Your patient monitoring system is revolutionizing post-surgical care." Grace attempted a smile that faltered. My parents exchanged panicked glances as whispers grew louder. I'd spent 11 years burying memories of that rainy night when my world collapsed, when I discovered my college fund emptied, transferred to an account I didn't recognize. The same day, a package arrived from Grace with photos of her spring break in Cancun. Stanford graduate and brilliant mind managing her family's medical practice back in Vermont. Daniel beamed, his arm around Grace's waist as he introduced her. I stood watching my sister nod demurely. Her pearl earrings caught the light when she tilted her head, a gesture I recognized from childhood, her tell when stretching the truth. "The Collins Clinic has been serving our community for 30 years, she said. "We specialize in family medicine with some geriatric care." A silver-haired woman approached me. "You're Amber Collins. Your presentation at last month's medical summit was brilliant. Your patient monitoring system is changing post-surgical recovery protocols across 3 states now." 4, actually, I smiled. "We just finalized implementation with Northwestern's hospital network." Across the room, Grace fumbled through a response about platelet therapy trends. The doctor questioning her exchanged a glance with his colleague. "I thought Stanford's medical program had shifted away from that approach 3 years ago," he said. Grace's laugh floated a pitch too high. "Well, you know how these academic debates go." Daniel's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. He was noticing the discrepancy. "Amber." My father's voice was the same commanding tone that once sent me scurrying to answer phones at the clinic while Grace practiced piano. "You need to leave. You're ruining Grace's day." Michael stiffened, but I placed a steadying hand on his arm. "I was invited by Daniel," I replied. "Perhaps you should explain why that upsets you." My father's face reddened. "Don't play innocent. You showing up like this, flaunting your whatever company you claim to run." "Moldova is hardly a claim, Dennis." Michael stepped forward. "The medical technology conference in Boston featured your daughter as keynote speaker. Her monitoring systems are in 27 hospitals nationwide." A nearby guest turned, recognizing the company name. My mother hovered near Grace, desperately trying to steer Daniel's colleagues away. Too late. The connections were forming throughout the room, medical professionals recognizing my name. Leo tugged at my hand. "Mom, can I have some cake now?" "You promised." "In a minute, sweetheart." Leo looked at Grace. "Is that lady your sister? Does she go to Stanford like you did?" My father's face drained of color. Leo continued innocently. "You showed me your old college pictures. The red buildings were pretty." Grace drifted closer. Daniel beside her. Her face froze at Leo's words. "Stanford?" Daniel said, looking between us. "You went to Stanford too, Amber?" "Class of 2014, I answered simply. Daniel's colleague turned to him. "You didn't mention your wife's sister was Amber Collins. Her work on predictive algorithms for post-surgical complications is revolutionary." The weight of 11 years of lies settled visibly on Grace's shoulders. She reached for Daniel's arm, but he stepped away, his attention now on the conversation around me. Later that evening, Daniel guided me away from the crowd. "Let's find somewhere quieter." We settled in a small alcove. "I apologize for the awkwardness," he began, straightening his bow tie. "You didn't know Grace had a sister," I finished, keeping my voice neutral. Daniel's eyes widened. "She mentioned a sister once, but said you dropped out of college after a semester, that you couldn't handle the pressure and disappeared." "I graduated summa cum laude," I said, "while working 3 jobs. 3 jobs? Mornings at a coffee shop, evenings at hospital reception, weekends at a call center. I put myself through school part-time, no family support." Daniel's expression shifted from confusion to calculation. "Stanford?" he asked. I shook my head. "Community college first, then state university. I couldn't afford Stanford after I discovered my college fund had been reallocated to Grace's education." The ballroom blurred as memories surfaced. Sleeping on couches, showering at the YMCA, eating ramen for weeks to save for textbooks. "The hospital where I worked reception," I continued. "That's where I met Michael. He was a resident then." That night, hunched over textbooks during my dinner break, Michael stopping at my desk, curious about my diagrams. "You understand Kellerman's patient flow theory?" he'd asked, surprised. "It's flawed," I'd replied. "The bottleneck isn't intake, it's documentation requirements between departments." He'd pulled up a chair. The next day, he brought coffee and questions about my ideas. Within months, we were developing the prototype that would become Modova's cornerstone product. Daniel leaned forward. "And Modova? Grace mentioned you worked some office job." I couldn't help but smile. "We started in our apartment 7 years ago. Last quarter's revenue was just under $400 million. Across the room, my parents flanked Grace like sentinels. They cast frantic glances our way. "They're going to try to separate us soon," I said. Michael approached, phone discreetly positioned at his side, documenting behavior while appearing casual, a protective measure we'd learned. "Everything all right here?" he asked. "Just catching up," I replied, gratitude warming my chest. On cue, my mother bustled toward us. "Daniel, there's someone from Boston General dying to meet you." Her eyes slid past me as if I were invisible. Daniel stood his ground. "In a moment, Margaret. Amber and I are having an important conversation." My mother's smile stiffened. Always the attention seeker, our Amber. She's always been jealous of her sister's accomplishments. I remained seated, back straight. Michael's hand rested on my shoulder. When the bathroom door swung closed behind me later, I wasn't surprised to find Grace inside, reapplying mascara with trembling hands. "Why are you doing this to me?" she demanded, voice breaking. "Doing what exactly?" "Ruining my wedding, making Daniel question everything." "I'm not doing anything," I replied softly. "I'm simply existing." Grace slammed her mascara onto the counter. "You were supposed to stay gone." For the first time, I saw the fear behind her anger, the terror of a house of cards beginning to collapse. "They told everyone you were a dropout," she continued, "that you couldn't handle responsibility, that you were—" "And yet here I am," I interrupted, "handling quite a lot." When I emerged, my composure intact, I returned to Michael's side. Grace followed minutes later, makeup freshly applied, but something essential had shattered behind her eyes. I noticed the subtle shift in the room, wedding guests drifting toward us, a neurosurgeon discussing patient monitoring with Michael, a hospital administrator slipping me her card. Daniel stood at my elbow, attentive to the conversation, asking questions about Modova's technology. His new bride hovered at the periphery. Father approached. "Daniel, this is Grace's wedding. Let's focus on her accomplishments." The silence that followed filled the room. All eyes flicked between Daniel and Dennis, then to Grace, whose smile stretched thin. Sometimes, silence holds more truth than words. I checked my watch. We'd stayed long enough. Michael caught my eye across the room, his slight nod confirming we were on the same wavelength. Are we leaving now? Leo tugged at my hand. Swimming pool time? Yes, buddy, just one more thing. I slid a small envelope from my clutch. Inside rested a certificate for Moldova stock. Not life-changing money, but enough to make a statement. This is who I am now. We found Daniel near the bar, watching Grace with the first hints of doubt in his eyes. We're heading out, I told him, offering the envelope. Congratulations again. He took it with warmth. Thank you for coming, especially considering... I appreciate the invitation. Closing this chapter matters more than I realized. Daniel leaned closer. I'd like to visit Moldova sometime, professionally. My assistant will set it up. I offered my business card, aware of Grace watching us. Mother glided toward us. Amber was always so driven. Of course, she had advantages we couldn't provide Grace. The blatant reversal of truth would have wounded me once. Now it was almost comical. What advantages were those, Mrs. Collins? Michael asked. The 3 jobs while putting herself through night school or sleeping on friends' couches after you took her tuition money. Leo looked up at me. Aren't those people your family, Mom? The question silenced everyone within hearing distance. I knelt to his level. They're relatives, buddy. Family is different. Father approached. You can't just waltz back into our lives and... I'm not interested in walking back into anything. My voice cut through his bluster. I built my own life, which is exactly what you forced me to do when you showed me the door. Thank you, I told my parents, causing them to blink in confusion. Thank you for not giving me a chance. You made me build my own. I took Leo's hand. Michael fell into step beside us as we made our exit, unhurried, dignified, complete. In the lobby, Leo spun with childish delight. Pool time. As we crossed toward the elevators, I caught our reflection, a family of 3, solid and connected. Behind us, I glimpsed Daniel watching our departure, then turning back to his new bride with new questions in his eyes. Some weddings mark beginnings. This one marked an ending. 1 month later, I scanned the partnership proposal from Boston Memorial, a contract worth 8 figures. Moldova's patient monitoring system had reduced post-surgical complications by 37% in their trial run. My assistant's voice crackled. Dr. Daniel Brooks is here to see you. Daniel entered like a man carrying invisible weight. His shoulders curled forward, suit jacket wrinkled. I've consulted with a lawyer about annulment possibilities, he said. Everything Grace told me was fabricated. She never attended Stanford. She never managed your parents' clinic. She's the receptionist. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and meant it. Your parents made her the face of their practice while they... His voice trailed off. The billing practices at their clinic. They've been charging Medicare for procedures never performed. Grace helped them do it. I began investigating after noticing inconsistencies in Grace's medical knowledge at the wedding, Daniel explained. I requested her Stanford records directly from the university, claiming I needed them for our honeymoon travel health insurance. They had no record of her. I didn't mean to drag you back into this, Daniel continued, but when I started investigating Grace's background, I found patterns, discrepancies. They used my college fund for Grace, I said. When I confronted them, they told me I wasn't Stanford material anyway. The irony is, I never wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to improve medical systems. You've done that, Daniel said. Moldova is transforming post-surgical care across the country. The clinic is being investigated, he finally said. I submitted anonymous information after discovering the extent of the fraud. I found billing documents in their home office when Grace was out one weekend. My phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Picking up Leo early. Zoo Day, join us? A warmth spread through my chest. This was my real family now. What will you do? I asked Daniel. File for annulment. Cooperate with investigators. Start over. He hesitated. I came to apologize for reconnecting you with your past and to ask, do you plan to get involved in the investigation? I could destroy them completely. One phone call from the CEO of Moldova would accelerate everything. No, I said. I built my life separate from theirs. I intend to keep it that way. After Daniel left, I stood at my window. My phone vibrated with a voicemail notification. Grace's number, the third this week. She tracked me down through Daniel after he confronted her with what he knew. Michael called. You sound tired? Daniel Brooks came to see me. The family clinic is under investigation for Medicare fraud. Are you okay? Yes. The answer surprised me with its truth. My computer chimed with an incoming email, an attorney requesting information about my time at Collins Family Practice. Attached were documents requiring my testimony. They want me to testify. I told Michael. What will you do? I'll forward them copies of the clinic's original records from when I worked there, I decided. Nothing more, nothing less. Just the facts. My phone buzzed again. Another voicemail from Grace. I pressed delete without listening, the small action surprisingly final. Leo wants to see the new tiger cubs, Michael said. Tell him I'm on my way. I gathered my bag, pausing at the door. The Boston Memorial contract waited on my desk, another hospital ready to implement the system I built from nothing but determination and long nights. I closed the door behind me. Some debts can never be repaid. Some wounds never fully heal. But I've learned that moving forward doesn't require forgiveness. Sometimes it just requires letting go. 6 months later, Leo raced between our garden's raised beds, his Batman cape fluttering behind him. Mom, can I water the tomatoes? Start with the peppers, I told him. They're thirsty today. Michael appeared with 3 glasses of lemonade. Reinforcements? He called, descending the steps into our garden. Thank you, good sir, Leo responded with a wobbly bow. Michael's eyes met mine over Leo's head. The unspoken conversation. This is what matters. This garden, this boy, this life we built. The Davis Hospital Board approved the patient monitoring system, Michael said casually. The 5th major hospital chain to adopt Moldova's technology this year. That's number 5, Leo announced proudly. Mom's helping all the sick people get better faster. The doorbell chimed. Michael returned with a certified letter from Grace Collins Brooks. The envelope sat on my desk for 17 minutes while I finished reviewing quarterly projections. When I finally opened it, a single sheet of cream-colored stationery slid out, covered in Grace's handwriting. Amber, the clinic closed last month. The investigation found billing irregularities going back 15 years. Daniel left me. He said he couldn't build a life with someone he couldn't trust. He was right. I'm not writing to ask for money. I'm writing because I need to tell you that you were never the problem. I was raised to believe your intelligence threatened mine. Your independence undermined my security. I believed them when they said cutting you off was necessary. I was wrong. They were wrong. And I'm sorry. Grace. What will you do? Michael asked. Nothing dramatic, I answered. I opened a document, typed for several minutes, then printed a single page. 2 weeks later, at the American Medical Technology Conference in Chicago, I spotted Grace in pale blue scrubs near the Education Pavilion, listening to a speaker discussing entry-level medical coding certification. Our eyes met across the crowded hall. No drama, just quiet recognition. She held the Moldova internship application I'd sent her, clutched like a lifeline. I offered a small nod. Not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. She returned it, eyes bright with something that might be determination. We didn't approach each other. Some relationships are completed, not continued. That evening, I finalized the paperwork for the Collins First Generation Medical Scholarship. 20 students without family support would receive full tuition and mentorship next fall. Back home, I knelt in our garden digging small holes for new seedlings. Leo helped, his small hands patting soil around tender roots. Some plants don't grow well next to others, I explained. They need their own space to thrive. Like people? He asked, surprisingly perceptive. Smart boy, I whispered. Yes, like people. The sun slanted golden across our yard. Through the kitchen window, I saw Michael preparing dinner, moving easily through the space we'd created together. I pressed another seed into the dark earth. covering it gently. Some roots you're given, others you get to choose.